So Bose came up with a really good segment idea, and I would like him to explain it to you, and so we can talk about it. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a staple of our podcast for sure, and I'll let him explain it to you.
All right, so one thing we're going to do, a weekly segment, we're going to do something called Stock Up, Stock Down, which is exactly what it sounds like. We're going to do one later for season predictions as well. This one, however, is just going to be for Daytona. So every week we'll do a driver whose stock is up going into the race and a driver whose stock is down, or a couple different drivers. Like for instance, I have 2 for Daytona this week, which is a little harder to pick because we haven't seen much going on yet. But, so yeah, stock up, stock down. Daytona for me, like I said, it's a little different because it doesn't tell you much about how the season's going to run. I remember last year after Bubba got second and like the next week on DraftKings, he was like the second most drafted guy, which wasn't smart, but everyone just hopped on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So stock up, stock down. This will be a segment we do every week. Like I mentioned later in the show, we'll do one for the whole season. All right. So my first stock up driver, I kind of skipped over the easy answer guys like Harvick and Logano, obviously just because they won.
Oh, I did too.
And I skipped over basically any Ford because they're going to be dominant. I also skipped over Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott because I feel like they're going to be a little aggressive and stuff. Hendrick always qualified really well at Daytona, but they haven't finished really well in the past. So I kind of went with 2 guys who I think are coming into the season as way underdogs, but they always run decent, sometimes pretty good at Daytona. So my first driver is Chris Buescher, and I have no analysis for like why I feel this way, but I mean, he runs pretty well as far as restricted plate racing goes. I don't think he's a guy that's going to go out and take crazy chances just because he doesn't want to tear up his car, and he wants to get points. So that's my first driver. Stock up just for Daytona. This is not season, just for this weekend.
All right, so my first driver, I went a little, I mean, not too obvious, but I did pick a Ford. I picked Clint Boyer. He's pretty underrated at restrictor plate tracks. His number 14 Ford looked really good for the majority of the second duel, and I see him having a pretty good shot and being in a good position to pick up a win. So, you know, he's going to be back there. He's going to be riding along, but when the time comes, I think he's going to be able to pop out there. He may be able to pick him up a win. So
that's a solid pick. I like that. For just for future reference, we will start doing some DraftKings work on here. Some daily fantasy.
Once it's not Daytona, because that's
not
just
for Daytona.
That's an easy way to lose money.
Yep. So my second driver, stock up for this week, Paul Menard.
Oh, I like that.
And the reason I say that, Paul Menard runs well on restrictor plate racing, and Paul Menard, the past 2 races, has looked really well. As long as Jimmy Johnson doesn't get behind him, he'll be all right. He's a Ford, so that helps instantly.
So my second pick is our pole setter, William Byron. So he's got a new crew chief. He's got Chad Knaus. So, you know, I do.
One of the most aggressive in the game.
Yeah, I honest to goodness don't think he has a snowball's chance in hell of winning the race. Because he's just not aggressive enough. I don't think he's going to. I couldn't
see it yet. Not yet.
Yeah, I don't see him being aggressive enough. But I think if he plays his cards right, he listens to Chad Knaus, I think he can come away with the top 10, which for him, it's going to mean a lot.
Top 10 would be huge. He finished off the year rough last year.
Yeah.
And he had a fast car at times, but, you know, the inexperience really caught up to him at the end of the year.
Yep, I agree.
So we'll switch over to stock down now. These are not guys that I think necessarily might do bad. These are just guys that I think coming into the race, their stock is at the lowest, maybe the lowest it'll be all season, especially with the guys I picked. Mm-hmm. These are a little harder to come up with because we don't have a lot of reference to build off of with it. So my first stock down guy is Jimmy Johnson.
As is mine.
Not surprisingly. I feel like I've hated on Jimmy a lot, which is not what I mean to do. But first off, he's just not a good restrictor plate racing driver in general.
No.
He's never done well at Daytona. Maybe a couple of years ago he did all right, but he did pick up a couple wins. But
he's been having terrible aero issues.
Yeah.
Getting super loose. I don't know.
And also, I don't know, besides anybody on his own team, who's going to be like, oh yeah, I'll have Jimmy push me. With what he's done.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, I'll pass on that. So my second stock down guy actually kind of relates to that. This one might be a little surprising, and it's strictly just for this race because I think this guy's going to have a monster year. But my second stock down guy is Kyle Busch.
Just for starting in the back, or?
I think it's more, he's not great at restrictor plate racing either. I think his aggression sometimes goes against him on these races.
He's very impatient too.
Yeah. And it seems like the past few restrictor plate races he's been in, he's always in a wreck, and then he like always ends up like 14th still.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to contend for a win this week. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but I just think in comparison to how he's going to run other races this year, his stock's going to be a little bit down for this one.
Yeah, I agree. So like I said, my first one was Jimmy Johnson too. I was listening to the radios of the other drivers, and when you hear other spotters advising your drivers to stay away from Jimmy Johnson.
Exactly.
I'm going to take their advice too, and I'm going to stay away from Jimmy Johnson this week.
Exactly.
And my second person that I think their stock is down, and I would not expect a lot from them, is last year's winner, Austin Dillon.
Ooh.
He has not been impressive. I don't think...
I'm on the fence about him because he's clearly aggressive enough to do something. He tried to make some moves in his duel.
I don't see back-to-back 500. They've been talking about hyping it up, and if there's anyone that's going to get back-to-back 500s, it's going to be him, but I don't see it in his future. So
let's be honest. Part of the reason he won last year was just because the field was completely dismantled.
Yeah, it was chaos, and
And he also had to dump a guy to get that win.
Yeah.
So I don't see him winning